So today's date is 5/23/23, and I'm going to teach you something new. I'm going to teach you about the Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem was developed by Pythagoras, a mathematician from thousands of years ago. He was born 570 BC. Thought of this math idea and proved it to be right. He hypothesized, I wonder if this always works. And he tested it, and it always was true. So we named it after him, the Pythagorean theorem. Pythagoras, his name is Pythagoras, a Greek mathematician. Alright, so you shouldn't be staring at your iPads. There's no phones, nothing like that for some time. Alright, now he developed a math problem, a math equation with a right triangle. This only works for a right triangle. What makes a triangle a right triangle?
90-degree angle.
It has a 90-degree angle. Very good. So here's my 90-degree angle. Now Pythagoras was a pretty cool guy. Met him a couple times. Yeah, I'm old. And for some reason, don't ask me why, he named this a leg, and he named this a leg too. Right? I don't know why he called it a legs. But then it got worse. Then he called this the hypotenuse. You know, these Greek mathematicians and their weird vocabulary. He called it a hypotenuse. He called the other two legs. I don't know why. Maybe your high school teachers know why it's called a hypotenuse. All I know is that the longest side of a triangle, is always called a hypotenuse. Hypotenuse, the longest side. No sé. It's also the opposite of the 90 degrees, all right? But then maybe, someone said, yo, Pythagoras, no one's going to memorize hypotenuse, leg, and leg. Name it something else. So he's like, fine, I will compromise. I will label this A, B, C. Are you happy now? And then people were like, yeah, sure, we can handle A, B, C. So your legs are always going to be called A or B, and your hypotenuse will be called C. Now A and B are in, you can change it. A and B can be swapped because they're both called legs. So you can call the one that's like this B and the one like this A. But the hypotenuse C will always be C. You cannot call this A or B. This one's always C. No matter what, this one's C. Okay? So he was looking at this triangle, and he didn't have a ruler. And he did not have a compass or a protractor. But he developed this formula that always worked. And they tested it, and it worked. He said, if I square A, and I add it to B squared, it will equal C squared. So he developed this math problem that said A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And it worked. For whichever side you're missing, if you're missing an A, a B, or a C, if you use this formula, you will find your missing side. It's pretty cool. It only works if the numbers are squared. It does not work if you don't square the numbers, which is pretty cool. The math, that is. All right, so let's try out a problem. So let's draw a right triangle. All right. We're going to call this 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters, and X. You don't have a ruler, you don't have a protractor, you don't have a compass. All you have is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And we got to solve for X. If you go home tonight and you tell your parents, hey, Mom and Dad, I learned about A squared plus B squared equals C squared. a lot of times your parents will remember a squared plus b squared equals c squared. They won't remember how to use it or when do we use it, but they'll remember somewhere in their math life they learned a squared plus b squared equals c squared. It's one of those famous ones you'll learn. All right, so let's plug in our numbers. Here is our formula. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So what's the first thing I should write? What should I substitute? A. So which number represents a? So we're going to go 3 squared plus what?
4 squared.
4 squared equals c squared. Because that x really is the c. All right. So let's look at our chart that we did yesterday. Or what is 3 squared? 9 plus equals c squared. Okay. How do we get 9 and 16? We just basically, you can look back here and find your answers, right, from yesterday. Okay. Now we're going to add. What's 9 plus 16? No. Oh my God. They said 27, then they said 26.
No, I meant 23. Wait, 25. 25. 25.
I don't think this one is going to use video.
It's gonna keep it.
Oh.
Come out.
You just give her
I thought 16 was 17%.
27.
We square root it.
So, okay, pay attention because this is like the big part of the lesson. Am I done? No. I have c by its c squared is equal to 25. I don't want to know what c squared is. I just want to know what c by itself is. So I have to get rid of this little square. So how do I get rid of a square? No. What is it? Square root. So what's the opposite of squaring? Square root. We learned that yesterday. So this is the part where first period lost points on their classwork. You have to show me that you're taking the square root of this side and you're taking the square root of this side. So you have to show me that you're square rooting both sides. Kind of like on the do now number 1 where you had to subtract 1 on this side and subtract 1 on the other side and then divide by 6 on the do now. So I have to square root on this side and square root on this side. What am I left with on this side? Just c. I got rid of the little 2. That's what I wanted. I got rid of the little 2 by taking the square root. Now we're going to look at our table from yesterday. I know some of you have it memorized. I'm looking for the square root of 25. There it is. What's the square root of 25 equal to? 5. So our answer is 5. All right, next problem. Show your work. When you turn in your classwork today, what am I grading? The work. I'm teaching you right now how to show said work. All right. 8, 6, x. Today we're solving for c. Today is all c. The next thing I get to teach you tomorrow is how to solve for a or b, and it's different. But today we're solving for c because that's the easiest one to solve for. All right. So what's our formula? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, that's our formula that Pythagoras discovered. Now we're going to substitute the numbers. What's a? 8. Okay. Could you write 6? Yes. It really doesn't matter. Plus, what's b? 6 squared equals c squared. Make sure you don't forget to square it. Some kids go too fast and they forget to square it and you don't get the right answer. So what's 8 squared?
64.
What's 36 squared? What's 6 squared?
100.
That's crazy.
So what's 64 plus 36? 100 is equal to c squared. What's our very last step? Square root. It's the opposite of a square. Square root, which I need to see when you're showing me your work that you're square rooting. Now look at your chart. If you don't know, some of you do have these memorized, which I love. And you're going to find the square root of 100. And the square root of 100 is? 10. So 10 is equal to c. We okay? All right, one more. Augustine, copy this triangle down, please. Like this?
Yeah.
Nice.
Like the box right there.
All right, plug in your numbers. 7. All right. So, how do we substitute the numbers? What math problem do I write down?
A squared plus B
Equals c squared. All right, let's substitute the numbers. What do I substitute 8 for? A for.
36.
Plus
27.
27 squared equals c squared. Now, our chart that we did yesterday does not go up to these numbers. So we're going to need a calculator. So go ahead, turn on your calculator, find your calculator, because there's something new I have to teach you on your calculator in a minute. Okay, what's 36 times 36? 36 times 36. That's what square means. It's not 36 times 2, it's 36 times 36. Do it on the calculator. Experience it. All right, what's 27 times 27? Okay, now what? Add. Add it with your calculator. Okay. Equals c squared. What's our last step? Square root. Now, depends on your calculator what you're going to do next, because this is not obviously in our chart. If you have an iPhone, you first need to take away the lock rotation, so that has to be off. Click on calculator, and if you rotate your phone, you get the scientific part. You get a lot more keys. Has to be rotated though. Okay? On the third row, 1, 2, 3, the second one to the right is your square root. Okay? Now, does everybody know what the square root of 100 is? 10, right? So, on the iPhone, every calculator is different. On the iPhone, you type in the number first, so 100, and then you push the button with the little 2 and the square root of an x. And now it gives us 10. What's the square root of 9? 9. What's the square root of 9? So 9 square root would give you 3. So that's how you use an iPhone. Now, what if you don't have an iPhone? I don't know where you guys have been. Seriously, whatever. It's cool. Okay, so on the iPhone, you type in the number first and then square root it. All right, so let's go on the iPhone or your calculator and tell me, what's the square root of 2025? Yep. So So everybody try to get 45 on your calculator because you got to go through the process. 45 is our answer. So type this in and make sure you get 45. Because when it's on the test and you don't know how to use your calculator, it's too late then. You got to practice using your calculator and getting 45 right now. And if you don't know how to use your calculator, I am more than happy. You will be turning this in at the end. I am grading the work. I'm going to do the first one with you. And then you're on your own, and I will be giving stars. Huh?
There's no back. No way.
I'm grading the work. I'm going to do the first one with you. All right. What's our formula for these problems?
A squared plus B squared plus C squared.
Good. All right. On all of these, you're solving for C. So, all of these, you're missing the C. Okay, how do I substitute for the first problem? What do I do?
14 squared plus 48 squared.
Perfect. So I type in 14 squared, because that's this number, plus 48 squared, because that's that number, equals C squared. All right? Calculator, 14 squared. 196 plus what is 48 squared?
2,304.
No. What is it?
2,304.
2,304 equals C squared. Use your calculator, get these numbers. Don't just copy us because then it's time for you guys to do it. You haven't been practicing enough. All right, add it with your calculator. What is it? 2,500 is equal to C squared. Remember how I told you first period lost points when I graded their work? They just told me the answer. C equals. What are they missing?
So the number 2, what is the number?
Not square it.
Square root.
You need a square root. So if you don't show me that, I'm going to take off points. Like a lot of points. If you don't show me this simple step right here, I am going to take off 5 billion points. So what's the square root of 2,500?
50.
So then I clearly see your answer of 50. Okay? All right, there are two numbers that got chopped off because of the hole punch. No big deal. The number 2, this number is going to be 36. I'll write it down right there, 36. And then all the way at the bottom, the last number is also chopped off, and it's 65. 65. Let me know when you're done so I can give you a star because you will upload. Mm.